The final phase of the war began when the three alien empires realized they were not just losing battles, but facing complete extinction as military powers. Their combined fleet of 80,000 ships had been reduced to fewer than 30,000 vessels, while human forces continued to grow stronger with each engagement. Desperation drove them to attempt their last possible strategy. They would attack Earth itself with everything they had remaining. If they could destroy humanity's homeworld and eliminate the human leadership, then perhaps the scattered human colonies would surrender or could be defeated individually. It was their only hope of preventing total military collapse. The alien armada that approached Earth consisted of the survivors from dozens of battles, plus reinforcements stripped from every remaining military installation in their three empires. 45,000 ships representing the absolute final military effort of three civilizations that had dominated the galaxy for over a millennium. President Webb stood in Earth's primary command center, watching displays that showed the approaching enemy fleet. The planet's defenses had been completely transformed during 3 years of total war. What had once been a peaceful world with some military installations was now something entirely different. "Sir, all planetary defense systems report full readiness," announced Defense Coordinator Paul Anderson as he monitored installations across the entire world. "Continental displacement drives are online. Atmospheric weapon systems are charged. Lunar battle platform is in optimal position." The alien commanders expected to find a heavily defended planet with orbital weapons and shield generators. They were not prepared for what Earth had actually become during the war. Humanity had transformed their entire home world into a weapon system that incorporated every piece of alien technology they had captured and improved. Admiral Lisa Carter coordinated the space-based defense from her flagship, while General Nick Thompson commanded ground-based systems. Both officers had been fighting this war since its beginning and had evolved along with human military capabilities. They were no longer just human commanders, but hybrid beings who could think with the speed of crystal matrices and adapt with the flexibility of bioneural systems. "Enemy fleet entering outer system perimeter," reported Admiral Carter as her sensors tracked the massive alien formation. "They are maintaining tight formations and using combined shields from all three species. Estimate arrival at Earth orbit in 6 hours." The battle began at the edge of the solar system, where human ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and behind planetary bodies suddenly revealed themselves. But these were not the same vessels that had defended human colonies 3 years earlier. Every ship was now a hybrid entity that combined technologies from all three alien civilizations while adding human innovations that exceeded anything their enemies had achieved. Captain Ryan Foster commanded a squadron of vessels that demonstrated humanity's ultimate technological evolution. The ships could exist simultaneously in normal space energy dimensions and crystal matrices, while maintaining full combat effectiveness in all three states. They were not just using alien abilities, but had created new forms of existence that none of the original species had imagined possible. "Enemy dreadnoughts attempting to target our position," reported Foster as his squadron engaged crystal ships 10 times their size. Activating multi-dimensional combat mode, engaging through 7-dimensional layers simultaneously. The human ships attacked from dimensions that the alien vessels could not even detect while maintaining physical presence in normal space. Weapons fire appeared from impossible angles as humans fought battles that existed across multiple levels of reality. The alien commanders found themselves facing tactical situations that their millions of years of military experience had never prepared them for. Dr. Rachel Green watched the battle from Earth's surface while coordinating the planet's most devastating defense system. The entire world's population had been integrated into a hybrid consciousness network that could think and act as both individual humans and as components of a planetary intelligence. 8 billion people working together as a unified military force. Planetary Consciousness Network shows full integration, Rachel reported to President Webb. All human minds linked through biocrystal interfaces. Processing capacity exceeds any computer system ever built. We are ready to engage enemy forces through direct consciousness warfare. This was humanity's ultimate adaptation. They had learned to combine their individual consciousness into a collective intelligence while maintaining their personal identity and creativity. The result was a form of group thinking that exceeded anything the hive-minded alien species had achieved, while preserving the innovation and adaptability that made humans unique. The alien fleet fought its way through the outer system defenses, but paid a terrible price. Human ships that could attack from multiple dimensions simultaneously proved impossible to counter with conventional tactics. Weapons that could adapt their effects based on target analysis made alien defenses useless. Most disturbing of all, human forces seemed to predict alien strategies before they were implemented. By the time the alien fleet reached Earth orbit, they had lost over half their remaining ships. The 20,000 vessels that survived the approach found themselves facing something none of them had expected. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a massive military installation that incorporated every lesson humanity had learned during 3 years of total war. Planetary defense systems activating, announced General Thompson as Earth revealed its true nature. Continental displacement beginning, surface weapon networks online, atmospheric ionization complete. The aliens watched in horror as entire continents began to move and reshape themselves. Mountain ranges rotated to reveal weapons installations. Ocean floors rose to expose shield generators. The atmosphere itself became weaponized as charged particles created barriers that could stop any known form of energy attack. President Webb opened a communication channel to the surviving alien commanders as their fleets were systematically destroyed by a planet that fought like a living weapon. His message would be recorded and transmitted across the galaxy as the final statement of humanity's transformation during wartime. "You wanted to know why every empire that fought creatures like us collapsed," Webb said as Earth's weapons continued their devastating work. "It is not because we are stronger or smarter than you. It is because when you fight us, you are not fighting an army or even a species. You are fighting evolution itself." The battle for Earth lasted 12 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the alien fleet. 45,000 ships had been reduced to scattered debris while Earth's defenses remained intact. The 3 galactic empires had committed everything they possessed to this final assault and had achieved nothing except their own military annihilation. Every battle teaches us something new. Webb continued his transmission to the galaxy. Every challenge makes us adapt. Every enemy shows us capabilities we can learn and improve. We do not just defeat our opponents, we absorb everything valuable they possess and use it to become something better. The aftermath of the war revealed the true extent of human transformation. Colonies that had been farming and mining communities 3 years earlier were now advanced civilizations that combined the best technologies of 4 different species. Human industrial capacity exceeded the combined manufacturing ability of all 3 former galactic powers. Most significantly, humans had evolved beyond their original biological limitations while maintaining their essential nature. They could think with crystal clarity, process information with bioneural speed, and manipulate energy with conscious control, while retaining the creativity and adaptability that made them uniquely human. Admiral Carter led the human fleets that accepted the surrender of the 3 alien empires. The crystal beings, energy entities, and insectoid species that had once dominated thousands of worlds now controlled only their core systems and possessed military forces that could not threaten even a single human colony. Terms of surrender are simple, Carter announced to the alien leaders during the formal ceremony. Your species will be allowed to exist and develop in peace. In exchange, you will share your scientific and cultural knowledge with humanity. We are not conquerors. We are students who learn from everyone we meet. This was perhaps the most significant demonstration of human nature. Even after achieving total military victory, they did not seek to dominate or destroy their former enemies. Instead, they offered partnership and mutual learning. The species that had adapted every alien technology to become stronger was also wise enough to understand that diversity and cooperation created more value than conquest and subjugation. The ancient records from Kepler 442c had described 17 civilizations that were destroyed after encountering adaptive species. But those records had not explained the ultimate fate of the adapters themselves. Now the answer was clear. They had not disappeared or been destroyed. They had evolved beyond the need for traditional empire building and had become something entirely new. Humanity emerged from the war not as rulers of a galactic empire, but as inheritors of the galaxy's accumulated knowledge and technology. Every world that chose to work with humans gained access to hybrid techno. 2 years into the war, the three alien empires made their most desperate decision. They would combine 80% of their total military forces into one massive fleet and eliminate humanity through complete annihilation. No prisoners would be taken. No human worlds would be left intact. Every trace of human civilization would be burned from the galaxy. The combined alien armada consisted of over 80,000 ships representing the greatest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Crystal dreadnoughts that could reshape matter at the molecular level, bioships that could adapt and evolve during combat, energy weapons that could destroy entire planets. The three empires had committed everything to ending the human threat once and for all. Admiral Lisa Carter received intelligence about the massive enemy fleet while commanding human forces in the outer colonies. The reports indicated that humanity faced total extinction within months unless they could find a way to match 80,000 enemy vessels with their own fleet of barely 4,000 ships. "Ma'am, the alien fleet is moving in 3 separate formations, but they are coordinating their advance," reported Intelligence Officer Paul Anderson from his monitoring station. "They have learned to work together, and they are using combined tactics." From all 3 species, Lisa studied the tactical displays showing enemy movements across a dozen star systems. The aliens had finally learned to coordinate their different technologies and fighting styles. Crystal ships provided defensive screens for biovessels, while energy weapons supported both types of attacks. For the first time in the war, the 3 empires were fighting as a unified force, but humanity had also been learning and adapting during 2 years of constant warfare. Commander Steve Phillips on Last Stand was demonstrating the latest evolution in human military thinking. His forces were no longer just using captured alien technology. They were developing entirely new concepts that no alien species had ever considered. "Sir, the new phase shift troops are ready for deployment," reported Major Carol Davis as she prepared her soldiers for an impossible mission. "We can now exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, while maintaining full combat effectiveness." Steve watched as human soldiers activated technology that combined luminar energy manipulation with Zephyrian crystal focusing and Karath bioadaptation. The result was warriors who could fight in normal space while simultaneously attacking through energy dimensions and crystal matrix networks. They were not just using alien abilities. They were combining them in ways that created entirely new forms of warfare. The first major battle of this new phase occurred in the Vega system, where human General Nick Thompson commanded a defense force of 300 ships against an alien attack fleet of 10,000 vessels. The odds were impossible by any conventional measure, but human forces were no longer conventional. "All ships activate hybrid combat mode," Nick ordered as the massive alien fleet approached. "Crystal hulls to adaptive configuration, biosystems to maximum evolution rate, energy cores to phase shift capacity." The human ships transformed as they prepared for battle. Hulls became living crystal that could reshape itself based on incoming attacks. Computer systems evolved new tactical programs during combat. Energy systems allowed entire vessels to exist in multiple dimensions, while fighting in all of them simultaneously. The battle lasted 18 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the alien attack force, while human losses totaled fewer than 30 ships. The aliens had brought overwhelming numerical superiority and advanced technology from 3 different civilizations. The humans had brought hybrid systems that exceeded anything the individual empires could achieve and tactical innovations that the aliens could not counter. Dr. Rachel Green was leading humanity's most ambitious research project on Earth. Her team was not just studying alien technology anymore. They were developing new forms of life and consciousness that incorporated the best features of all 4 species, while adding capabilities that none of them had possessed. "The Hybrid Consciousness Project is ready for testing," Rachel reported to President Webb during an emergency briefing. "We can create beings that think like humans, but process information like Zephyrian crystals and adapt like Karath bioforms while existing partially as luminar energy." This represented the next stage of human evolution during wartime. Humanity was not just learning from their enemies. They were becoming something that incorporated the best qualities of every species they encountered, while maintaining their essential human nature, and adding new capabilities that surpassed anything their enemies had achieved. Captain Ryan Foster commanded the new generation of human vessels that demonstrated these revolutionary advances. The UES Evolution was not just a ship, but a living hybrid entity that combined technology, consciousness, and biological adaptation in ways that no alien species had ever imagined possible. Ship reports full integration of all hybrid systems, announced Chief Engineer Amy Watson as the Evolution prepared for its first major combat mission. Crystal Matrix shows adaptive response rates 50% faster than Zephyrian standards. Bio-neural networks demonstrate learning capacity exceeding Kareth. Evolution by 200%. Energy consciousness maintains coherence while phase shifting through 7-dimensional layers. The Evolution was more than an improved version of alien technology. It was a completely new form of existence that combined the best features of multiple species while adding human creativity and adaptability to create something entirely unprecedented in galactic history. The alien empires received reports from their surviving commanders that made their worst fears reality. Human forces were not just winning battles anymore, they were winning them easily, while demonstrating capabilities that exceeded anything the three empires could achieve working together. Factory supervisor Tony Mitchell on New Pittsburgh was overseeing production of technologies that would have been considered impossible just 3 years earlier. Human industrial capacity now exceeded the combined manufacturing ability of all three alien empires while producing hybrid systems that none of them could duplicate. Production report shows completion of 2,000 hybrid vessels this month, Tony announced during the weekly industrial briefing. Each ship incorporates improvements over previous designs and capabilities beyond anything our enemies possess. Human manufacturing had evolved beyond simple production lines to become integrated systems that could design, build, and improve technology faster than the alien empires could develop countermeasures. Every human factory was now a research facility that created new innovations while producing existing designs. The turning point came when the combined alien armada of 80,000 ships encountered the human defense fleet in the Sol system. Earth's defenders numbered barely 5,000 vessels, but they represented the culmination of human adaptation and technological absorption during 2 years of total war. Admiral Carter commanded the human fleet from her flagship, the UES Adaptation, while President Webb coordinated planetary defenses from Earth's surface. Every human ship was a hybrid vessel that combined and improved upon technologies from all three alien civilizations. Every human crew member was a soldier scientist who could adapt to any situation and learn from every encounter. Enemy fleet entering maximum weapons range, reported Combat Coordinator Helen Martinez from the Fleet Command Center. Estimate 82,000 alien vessels including 1,200 capital ships and over 4,000 energy weapon platforms, LISA, looked at the tactical display showing the massive enemy formation approaching Earth. Under any previous military doctrine, the battle would be hopeless. 5,000 ships could not defeat 80,000 regardless of technological advantages. But human military thinking had evolved beyond conventional concepts of numerical superiority. All ships activate Distributed Consciousness Mode, LISA, ordered. Engage enemy force using adaptive swarm tactics. Begin technological absorption protocols. The battle for Earth began with human ships that could think and act as both individual vessels and as components of a larger distributed intelligence. They could coordinate attacks across thousands of ships while simultaneously adapting to enemy tactics and learning from every exchange of fire. The alien commanders watched in growing horror as their massive numerical advantage began to collapse against human forces that seemed to anticipate their every move and counter their strategies before they were fully implemented. Worse yet, the humans were visibly learning from every alien weapon and tactic, then developing improved countermeasures during the battle itself. 6 hours into the battle, the alien fleet had lost over 20,000 ships, while human losses totaled fewer than 300 vessels. The humans were not just winning an impossible battle, They were demonstrating that numerical superiority meant nothing against a species that could adapt and evolve faster than their enemies could deploy new tactics. The war was about to enter its final phase, with humanity no longer fighting for survival but demonstrating their evolution into something beyond what any single species could achieve alone. The first attack came at dawn on New Dakota. Colony Administrator Ben Parker was drinking his morning coffee when the sky filled with crystal ships. The Zephyrian Collective had sent 20 of their massive dreadnoughts to destroy what they believed was a simple farming community of 50,000 humans. Ben calmly set down his coffee cup and activated the colony's defense system. Across the settlement, wheat fields began to retract into the ground, revealing rows of missile launchers. Farmhouses split open to show heavy railguns. The grain silos rotated to expose their true nature as planetary defense cannons. The Zephyrians had expected to see panicking civilians running for shelter. Instead, they watched as every human in the colony moved to predetermined positions with military precision. Children as young as 12 took positions at communication stations, while their parents manned the weapon systems. Colonel Amy Rodriguez had been disguised as the local school teacher for 3 years. Now she stood in the colony's command center, coordinating the defense with the skill of a veteran military officer. Her students had not been learning just reading and mathematics. They had been training as soldiers. "All units, this is base command," Amy spoke into her headset. "The crystal ships are vulnerable to concentrated fire at their connection points. Target the joints between sections and maintain continuous pressure." The battle began with the Zephyrians firing their energy weapons at what they thought were civilian buildings. The buildings absorbed the blasts and returned fire with weapons that should not have existed on a farming world. The aliens quickly realized they were not fighting farmers, but a hidden military installation. 3 hours into the battle, the Zephyrians had lost 4 of their dreadnoughts. The crystal beings inside the ships were confused and increasingly desperate. Their intelligence had indicated that New Dakota was defended by perhaps a dozen security guards with light weapons. Instead, they faced a coordinated defense that seemed to anticipate their every move. "The humans are laughing," reported Ship Commander Zell 9 to the fleet. "Our psychological warfare broadcasts are having no effect. They appear to be enjoying the combat." This was perhaps the Zephyrians' greatest mistake in understanding humanity. They assumed that fear and intimidation would work on humans the same way it worked on other species. Instead, the humans were responding to mortal danger with excitement and determination. Ben Parker coordinated the evacuation of wounded civilians while simultaneously directing supply runs to forward positions. At age 60, he moved with the speed and confidence of a trained soldier, because that is exactly what he was. Every human administrator had military training and combat experience. Meanwhile, on the mining world of Titan's Rest, the Karath Dominion was launching their own attack. Their insectoid warriors specialized in overwhelming their enemies with massive numbers of expendable troops. They had brought 50,000 soldiers to crush what they believed were 20,000 civilian miners. Engineer Pete Collins was working a night shift in the deep mines when the attack began. The Karath bioships landed near the main settlement and began deploying their ground forces in the classic swarm formation that had conquered dozens of worlds. Pete activated the mining colony's hidden defense protocol, and suddenly the planet's extensive tunnel system became a 3-dimensional battlefield. Every mining laser became a weapon. Every explosive charge became a trap. Every piece of heavy equipment became a war machine. The Karath had expected to fight humans on the surface, where their superior numbers would provide an advantage. Instead, they found themselves drawn into underground passages where human knowledge of the terrain and guerrilla tactics made their numbers useless. "These are not miners," reported Warrior Prime Click 12 as his unit was ambushed for the 3rd time in an hour. "They fight like experienced soldiers, and they know these tunnels better than we know our own hives." The truth was that every human miner was also a combat engineer. Their daily work involved using explosives and heavy machinery in dangerous conditions. Adapting these skills to warfare was natural and effective. The mining equipment that the Karath had dismissed as civilian tools proved to be devastatingly effective weapons. Industrial drilling lasers could cut through Karath bioarmor with ease. Construction explosives created cave-ins that trapped entire warrior units. Heavy hauling vehicles became mobile weapons platforms. Pete led a team of 12 miners turned soldiers through passages that connected the entire underground network. They could strike at any Kareth unit, then disappear into tunnels too small for the insectoid warriors to follow. Each attack weakened the invaders while the humans remained safely hidden in their underground fortress. The Karath commanders had expected the battle to last perhaps 6 hours. After 2 days of fighting, they had lost over half their ground forces, while the humans continued to operate from their tunnel networks. Worse yet, the humans seemed to be learning Kareth tactics and adapting their own strategies accordingly. Dr. Rachel Green on Kepler Station was facing the third arm of the alien assault. The Luminar Federation had sent energy beings to possess human minds and turn the research station's population against each other. This was their standard technique for dealing with resistant populations. The Luminar energy forms expected to find unprepared civilian minds that they could easily control. Instead, they encountered cognitive defenses that not only resisted their possession attempts, but actually trapped the energy beings in human neural networks. Rachel had not spent the last 5 years studying alien psychology for academic purposes. She had been developing mental warfare techniques designed specifically to counter energy-based mind control. Every human on the station had undergone training to resist alien mental intrusion. The energy signatures are becoming unstable, reported Dr. Kevin Murphy as he monitored the possessed Luminar beings. Our neural feedback techniques are disrupting their energy matrices. The humans had discovered that their minds could not only resist Luminar possession, but could actually damage the energy beings through specific thought patterns and mental exercises. What the aliens had intended as a simple conquest was becoming a trap that destroyed their forces. On New Pittsburgh, the industrial world was demonstrating humanity's greatest deception. Factory supervisor Tony Mitchell revealed that human civilian manufacturing had been producing military hardware disguised as consumer goods for decades. Food processing plants began producing military rations and ammunition. Clothing factories started manufacturing combat suits and body armor. Entertainment complexes activated their hidden functions as command and control centers. The entire human industrial base transformed from civilian production to military manufacturing within hours. The 3 alien empires had made the same critical error in intelligence gathering. They had observed human colonies and seen farmers and miners and factory workers. They had not realized that every human civilian was also a trained soldier, and every civilian facility was also a military installation. General Katie Brooks commanded the defense of the Centauri system from what appeared to be a university campus. Her officers had been working as professors and researchers while maintaining full military readiness. The students had been learning combat tactics along with their academic subjects. "You see soldiers and civilians," Katie explained to the alien commanders during a brief communication exchange. "We simply see humans doing different jobs." This fundamental difference in perspective was already beginning to shift the balance of the war. The alien empires had prepared to fight human military forces. They were not prepared to fight an entire species that had organized itself as a military force while maintaining the appearance of civilian society. The first phase of the war was ending, and the results were shocking to the alien empires. They had expected quick victories against scattered human colonies. Instead, they faced coordinated resistance from hidden military installations, defended by a population that had been preparing for this war for generations. More disturbing than their tactical losses was the realization that humans were studying alien technology and tactics during every battle. The species that had destroyed 17 previous civilizations was once again demonstrating their ability to learn and adapt under pressure. 6 months had passed since the war began, and the 3 alien empires were starting to understand what they were really fighting. The humans were not just defending their colonies. They were learning from every battle and becoming more dangerous with each encounter. Dr. Rachel Green stood in her laboratory on Kepler Station examining captured Luminar energy technology. What had started as a research station was now humanity's primary facility for studying alien science and biology. Every piece of enemy equipment that fell into human hands was immediately analyzed and reverse-engineered. The energy beings use quantum resonance to maintain their consciousness, Rachel explained to her team of scientists. But we can modify this technology to work with human neural patterns. We can become energy beings ourselves when needed. This was the alien empire's greatest fear beginning to come true. Humans were not just resisting their technology, they were stealing it and improving upon it. The Luminar Federation had developed energy consciousness over millions of years of evolution. Humans were learning to duplicate the process in months. Captain Steve Phillips commanded the fortress world of Last Stand, where humanity was demonstrating their most dangerous characteristic. As the Karath adapted to human tunnel warfare, the humans immediately switched to aerial combat. When the aliens countered their air tactics, humans began fighting underwater in the planet's vast ocean systems. Every time the Karath developed a strategy to counter human tactics, the humans had already moved to a completely different type of warfare. They were not just adapting their techniques. They were evolving their entire approach to combat faster than their enemies could respond. "Sir, the Karath have deployed new biosensors to detect our tunnel networks," reported Lieutenant Carol Davis from the Underground Command Center. "Recommend we shift to surface operations using the new Crystal hybrid vehicles." Steve nodded and activated the latest human innovation. Vehicles that combined Zephyrian crystal technology with human engineering appeared from hidden garages. These were not copies of alien designs, but improvements that incorporated the best features of both technologies. The Karath warriors, who emerged from their tunnels expecting to fight humans underground, found themselves facing crystal-armored vehicles that could phase in and out of solid matter. The humans had taken Zephyrian defensive technology and combined it with human mobility to create weapons that neither alien species could have developed alone. On the industrial world of New Pittsburgh, factory supervisor Tony Mitchell was overseeing humanity's most ambitious project. Human engineers were not just copying alien technology. They were combining technologies from all three alien species to create hybrid systems that surpassed anything the individual empires had achieved. "The biometal from Karath ships bonds perfectly with Zephyrian crystals," Tony reported to Earth Command. "When we add Luminar energy systems, we get armor that heals itself and weapons that adapt to any target. Production begins tomorrow." The alien empires were horrifying to discover that their greatest technologies were being turned against them by human innovations they could never have imagined. Each species had developed advanced technology in isolation over millions of years. Humans were combining all three approaches and improving them within months. Dr. Helen Martinez led the research team on Earth that was studying captured alien biology. Her laboratory contained living samples from all three enemy species, and her discoveries were revolutionizing human understanding of genetic engineering and evolutionary adaptation. "The Karath bioships are actually living creatures bred for space travel," Helen explained to President Webb during his weekly briefing. "We can grow our own bioships, but ours will be better. Human creativity combined with alien evolution produces possibilities none of our enemies considered." This represented humanity's ultimate advantage in the war. The three alien empires each possessed technology and abilities that had taken millions of years to develop. But they had developed in isolation and had never learned to combine their abilities with other species. Humans were natural collaborators who could take the best ideas from multiple sources and create something entirely new. The UES Defiance was humanity's first hybrid warship, commanded by Captain Ryan Foster. The vessel incorporated Zephyrian crystal, hull technology that could reshape itself during combat. Karath biocomputers provided processing power that could think and adapt like a living creature. Luminar energy systems allowed the ship to exist partially in energy form and phase between dimensions. "All systems ready for combat test," reported Chief Engineer Amy Watson from the ship's Hybrid Command Center. Crystal hull responding to thought commands. Biosystems show full integration. Energy phase generators at maximum efficiency. Ryan activated the ship's combat systems and watched as the Defiance transformed from a traditional human vessel into something that combined the best features of all three alien technologies. But the ship was more than just a combination of alien designs. Human engineering had improved every system and created capabilities that none of the original technologies possessed individually. The ship could think like a Karath biovessel, but faster. It could reshape itself like Zephyrian crystal technology, but with more flexibility. It could phase like luminar energy beings, but while maintaining physical mass and weapons. Most importantly, it could learn and adapt during combat in ways that exceeded anything the alien empires had achieved. Admiral Lisa Carter watched from her command ship as the Defiance engaged a combined alien fleet in the Proxima system. The enemy force included crystal dreadnoughts, bioships, and energy weapon platforms from all three empires working together for the first time in the war. The battle lasted 4 hours and demonstrated that humanity had crossed a critical threshold. The Defiance was not just holding its own against superior numbers, it was winning. The hybrid human ship was adapting to enemy tactics faster than the aliens could coordinate their attacks. The Defiance is using Zephyrian crystal-forming techniques to create new weapons during the battle, reported combat analyst Nick Thompson from his monitoring station. Those are not weapons we installed. The ship is designing and building them as needed. This was the moment when the alien empires realized the true scope of the threat they faced. Humans were not just using alien technology. They were improving it beyond what its original creators had thought possible. The ship fighting their combined fleets was more advanced than anything any of the three empires had ever built. President Webb received reports from all fronts that painted the same picture. Human forces were not just holding their defensive positions. They were beginning to win battles against superior numbers and more advanced technology. Every engagement taught humans something new about their enemies, while making human forces more dangerous. On Mars, Councilwoman Helen Martinez was coordinating the construction of new hybrid facilities that combined industrial techniques from all four species. Human workers were learning to grow crystal technology like the Zephyrians, while using bioengineering techniques from the Karath and energy manipulation from the Luminar Federation. Our production capacity has increased by 300% since we started using hybrid techniques, Helen reported to the council. We are not just building human ships anymore, we are building vessels that incorporate the best ideas from across the galaxy. The war had become something none of the participants had expected. The alien empires had planned a quick extermination campaign against a primitive human civilization. Instead, they found themselves in an extended conflict against a species that was becoming more advanced and dangerous with every passing month. Human colonies that had been defending themselves 6 months ago were now launching offensive operations. Against alien worlds, human ships that had been outnumbered and outgunned were now fighting as equals against the best vessels in the alien fleets. Human soldiers who had been using improvised weapons were now carrying hybrid technology that surpassed anything the empires had developed. The ancient records from Kepler 442c had described species that absorbed the best qualities of their enemies and used them to become stronger. The three alien empires were beginning to understand that they were not fighting a war of conquest. They were participating in their own technological and tactical absorption by a species that had evolved to learn from conflict and become stronger through adversity. The tide of war was turning, and humanity was no longer just surviving. They were evolving into something that combined the best abilities of all four species, while adding human creativity and adaptability to create capabilities that none of them had possessed alone. Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he stared at the ancient device sitting on his ship's examination table. The metal object was no bigger than a human head, but it hummed with strange energy that made his teeth ache. His ship, the UES Pioneer, had been exploring dead worlds for 3 years now, and this was the most interesting thing they had found. The planet Kepler 442c had been lifeless for over 2,000 years according to their scans, but the ruins suggested a once great civilization had lived here. Jake's team had spent 2 weeks digging through the rubble of what looked like a massive library when they found the device buried deep underground. "Captain, the translation program is working," said his science officer, Lieutenant Amy Chen, as she looked up from her computer screen. "This thing contains records of 17 different alien races." Jake walked over to look at the screen where symbols were changing into English words. The stories were all similar and all disturbing. Each race had been powerful and advanced. Each had controlled multiple star systems. Each had built great fleets and conquered many worlds. And each had been completely destroyed after meeting a species that matched human descriptions. "The files call them the Adapters," Amy said quietly. Every record says the same thing. These adapters looked weak at first. Small numbers, simple technology, but every empire that fought them was gone within a few years. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The descriptions were too accurate to ignore. Bipedal creatures about 6 feet tall with no natural weapons or armor. They lived on a blue world with one moon. They had only recently begun traveling between stars. It had to be humans. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Lisa Carter was reading reports that made her stomach turn. 3 separate intelligence sources confirmed the same terrifying news. The Zephyrian Collective was moving their entire crystal fleet toward human space. The Karath Dominion had recalled all their bioships from the Outer Rim. The Luminar Federation had stopped all other military operations and was gathering their energy weapons. Lisa had fought in border skirmishes with all 3 empires over the past decade. Each one alone could match the entire human fleet. Together they represented over 100,000 warships against humanity's modest force of 3,000 vessels. She activated the emergency communication system and sent a priority message to Earth. President Marcus Webb needed to know that the 3 most powerful forces in the galaxy were preparing to attack human colonies. The message reached Earth 6 hours later due to the vast distances involved in space communication. President Webb was in his office reviewing trade agreements when his aide rushed in with the encrypted report. As he read the contents, his face grew pale. Webb immediately called an emergency session of the United Terran Council. Representatives from all 12 human colony worlds connected via quantum link to hear the devastating news. The room fell silent as Webb read the intelligence reports aloud. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing total war," Webb said as he finished reading. 3 galactic superpowers have decided that humanity must be eliminated. Their combined forces outnumber us 30-1. Councilwoman Helen Martinez from the Mars colony spoke first. "Mr. President, our military planners have prepared for this possibility. Every human colony has been built according to the defense protocols. Our people know what to do." Webb nodded. The defense protocols had been humanity's greatest secret for the past 50 years. Every human settlement looked like a peaceful farming or mining community, but each one was actually a hidden fortress. Every human civilian had military training. Every piece of civilian equipment had military applications. "What about our fleet?" asked Councilman Ben Parker from New Dakota. 3,000 ships cannot fight 100,000. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system from her flagship. "Our ships are smaller, but they are fast, and our crews are better trained. More importantly, our enemies think they know what we are capable of. They have made assumptions based on limited information." The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this war for generations. When humans first encountered other alien races 50 years ago, they had realized immediately that they were not the strongest or most advanced species in the galaxy. Instead of trying to match alien technology directly, humans had focused on adaptation and survival. Every human child learned basic combat skills along with reading and mathematics. Every human adult spent time each year in military training. Every human colony was designed to be self-sufficient and defensible. Most importantly, every human had learned to think like a soldier, even while working as a farmer or scientist or teacher. The alien empires saw humans as a young, weak species that had been lucky to colonize a few worlds. They did not understand that humanity had turned their entire civilization into a military force while maintaining the appearance of peaceful expansion. Captain Morrison's discovery on Kepler 442c had revealed the truth that human leaders already suspected. Humanity was not the first species to possess their particular combination of adaptability and stubbornness, but they were apparently the only one to survive long enough to spread across multiple star systems. The ancient records spoke of species that could learn any technology and improve upon it. Creatures that refused to surrender even when facing impossible odds. Beings that became more dangerous the longer a war continued. Every empire that had encountered such a species had eventually fallen not through direct conquest, but through a process of technological and tactical absorption that left the adapters stronger than their enemies. As the emergency council session continued into the night, President Webb made the decision that would define humanity's future. Instead of trying to negotiate or surrender, they would fight. Not just their military, but their entire species would mobilize for war. Orders went out to every human colony. The defense protocols were activated. Hidden weapon systems came online. Civilian facilities began their transformation into military production centers. And every human citizen prepared to become a soldier in the war that would determine whether their species survived or joined the 17 extinct races in the ancient records. The 3 alien empires were about to discover why every previous empire had collapsed against creatures like humans. They were not just fighting an army or even a military force. They were about to face an entire species that had evolved into a weapon designed for survival against impossible odds. The war was about to begin, and humanity was ready.